Hello, hi. I thought that was white text. This is telling you I'm Susan Long with REI. I'm the Sustainability Initiative Manager in our Brand Stewardship and Impact group. And as Ann mentioned, I'm here to talk about what we're doing to try to reduce waste, keep gear in use, and a lot of the ideas that have been mentioned, I'm proud to say we're looking at and doing. So it was kind of fun to hear the different ideas being mentioned. One thing I wanted to point out that's kind of fun about this picture is this comes from our co-op journal, which is our blog. And it's a great story that someone wrote about her dad's sleeping bag that he bought at REI 50 years ago, and she still uses it. So we love to hear stories about people who are using gear for years and years. So if you want, you can go check out and read about that sleeping bag. So what I want to start with is why is REI concerned about this, and kind of frame up our basic purpose for being, and that is that we believe a life outdoors is a life well lived, and therefore we think about everything we do in that context is how can we help awaken a lifelong love of the outdoors in our members. And so obviously they're selling gear, but there's a whole lot of other things that we do to awaken that love and get people outside. And our belief is you have to get people outside so they know what the outside is and are willing to fight for it. So we, as you probably know, we have other areas like our trips, our classes. There's a lot of classes that are given here, so our outdoor programs, in addition to our store. If you want to learn more about our broader work on stewardship and sustainability, just wanted to mention there's a lot of information online at our rei.com on our stewardship pages, and specifically talking about why it's important to awaken a lifelong love of the outdoors and why we need people to love the outdoors and care about it. There's a document there I would direct you to check out if you haven't already. It's called The Path Ahead. It talks about the pressures of today's life, social media, the pace at which we live, the pressures that are being brought to bear on the outdoors and living a life outdoors, and some of the encouraging solutions and things that are going on, both REI and others, to try to solve some of those issues. So one thing that I saw, Kamal mentioned the butterfly diagram. We have our own version of that. And it kind of helps frame up how we look at our work around keeping gear in play and making gear that lasts longer. So this is just it's sort of complex. It's that loop model of how gear flows through, or apparel and gear flow through design, manufacture, our sales, consumers using them, and end of life, and then back. And then the two areas where we're looking at different business models and actions to reduce our impact and keep gear in play. And those are better materials, and that has to do with our design and the use of sustainable materials going into apparel and other things, and then also gear that lasts. And that means not only designing gear that lasts, but also creating other models of how we can keep gear and apparel in play. So just really quickly going through better materials, we have a number of sustainable materials that we look to use in all of the products that we design. We're also encouraging the 1,000 other brands that we carry to look at these different materials that reduce impact on the input. Blue Sign is a really wonderful chemical management system for textiles. So you can look for Blue Sign certified apparel, organic cotton, responsible woolen down. We try to make use of recycled material as much as possible. We have fair trade relationships with fair trade supply chains, and we look at FSC certification for fiber sources, and there's also a leather working group. There's all these different ways that we can seek out better material to put into our system. Just want to talk about, in terms of recycled, give you a specific example of a way that we reduce waste in our system. We have fabric that we buy for different runs of product, and sometimes we have extra or there's samples. And one way we found to make a better use of that than even recycling is by making what we take this fabric, we call it liability fabric, we own it, and we find other uses for it. One of them was we made a limited edition little camp blanket out of leftover, I think that was sleeping bag material. And then we've also run fabric into some really great products like these low-cost ponchos that we then find more donation opportunities for getting kids outdoors, etc. So just an example of kind of how we think about the materials coming in and how we can reduce impact. So, as I said, we design gear to last. The intention is for something that you buy from REI to be high quality and last a long time. And I just wanted to mention one of the ways that we do that is we have a lab in our headquarters called Magnuson Lab that does all the prototyping and testing, and they've actually developed a lot of really unique tests for camp chairs, and there's someone testing one of our hammocks here. There's weight being applied to that hammock to see what's the load strength. But they do all sorts of testing and help prototyping and design to ensure that the gear that we're designing and the apparel that we're designing will last. Okay, so one of the first ways, and I'm sure most of you are pretty familiar with this, one of the major ways that we've always minimized our waste is our famous garage sales. And every store has a number of those, and we are able to sell a tremendous amount of the material that we have in our stores. But we're looking at some other ways to expand from just those very local, you have to physically be at the garage sale. I don't know if you've lined up for one here or at another store, but people line up for these things and they come in, and it really depends on the person finding that right thing in the right size that they were looking for. So we knew we had to sort of remove some of the friction from that. So if you haven't seen it already, we actually now have, similar to Patagonia, the used gear online on our rei.com as well. And it's basically a garage sale all the time. So you can find your size, information about the condition. So we certainly are moving additional things, and particularly specialized things. The example we always give is the mountaineering boot that might have been at the garage sale in Kansas City now can find that person who really needed that boot in that size. So please check that out. We're really pleased with how that's going. The other thing we do is similar to some things that were mentioned earlier. There's a lot of information on our website about care and repair of our products. This is a little bit of an eye chart, but this is just an example of all the different articles that you can find about how to care for your gear and then how to repair it. And you'll hear from one of our partners. We also reference people like Rainy Pass and Dave Page and others for repairs that they can't do themselves. But there's certainly a lot of information here about how to repair your own gear. So as I mentioned, we're also looking at other business models around reducing our waste. And one of the newer ones is not only do we have garage sales, but we're holding gear swaps. So we're kind of going out one ring in the circle and allowing our members to bring and exchange gear with each other. It doesn't have to come back to REI as a return, but we're also enabling that exchange at gear swaps, like the Thingamajig was one of the first that we did. I think that was at our DC store. We also are having a number of them this coming, actually, I apologize, it was last weekend. There were a number of them at stores across the country. The other thing that we are moving into is, we've always done rentals, but we're looking at having rentals more at point of use. So we have a couple of boat houses around. One's in Atlanta, there's one in Chicago on the Chicago River, where you can rent things like kayaks right where you're going to be using them. So those are a couple of our new business models that we're exploring to try to allow more access to gear, get people out. They don't have to buy a kayak to go try it. Come rent one and try it. Finally, at end of life, the things that we can't sell in our garage sales, which actually is pretty, it's a pretty small amount, but we do donate. We've donated to Goodwill. We've used Give Back Box. We have donated fixtures. Is another thing that we sometimes need to move out as we get a new fixture in. We've donated and had success working with Habitat for Humanity for that. We have a commitment to zero waste by 2020, so this is a really important area, is to make sure that long tail of things that don't sell in the garage sale, that we find solutions. And it's a complex area because it's often the very broken things that can't be sold, usually mixed material, a lot of gear, car top boxes that are broken, et cetera, et cetera. So there's still work to be done, and that's part of one of our challenges for that. And then, of course, we are looking at, for textiles in particular, all the different innovations that are happening with recycling for those things that really can't be kept in circulation. There's a lot of really interesting innovation happening right now. Companies like Evernew here in Seattle. Is anyone here from Evernew? They've got a pretty unique cotton recycling process. There is the InRail Laboratory is developing a process, an enzymatic process that breaks down, I believe, polymers back to monomers and allows them to be reconfigured. eCore is a product that uses waste textiles in a board-like product. Blend Rewind was one I just found online. I'm just mentioning a few that we've also just been looking at, and there's a lot of innovation out there for that long tail end of life. We also partner on repurposing. We partner with Green Guru Alchemy. We send all our bike tubes to them, and they make the wallets that some of you might have, and other products with that. And there are other companies like Looped Works, etc., that work to repurpose and make new products out of old materials. So that's just a quick run through of what REI does. And again, it was really fun to see all the mentions and to say, oh yeah, we're doing that here, we're doing that here. So, but I would be remiss in if I didn't end this by reminding you that Thanksgiving's coming, and we're opting outside again, and I hope that you will as well. The day after, well, Thanksgiving and the day after Thanksgiving we're closed. Everyone gets a paid day off. And we're going to be opting outside. And I hope you will as well. So just a quick run through. If you have any questions, happy to answer.
Okay, any questions for Sue? Hi there. So I love the Better Materials Initiative, and I appreciated that you said you're encouraging other brands to carry items with better materials as well. I'm just wondering how you leverage that. Like, do you make your suppliers available, or do you offer initiatives, or what does that look like?
So we just released a set of product sustainability standards that we developed very collaboratively with those brands, and we spent a lot of time developing them, working with the other brands, talking about what was, do you understand what we're asking? Is this something you think you could do? we're taking an attitude of, we work in an industry where you've got a really broad range of sophistication in this area. You've got small brands that are really literally a couple people in a garage making something to the Patagonias and North Faces of the world. And so we want to make sure that we're bringing everyone along, and so it's a very collaborative approach. We put a set of guidelines out. We've pointed out these, what we call easy buttons, to ensuring that your products are sustainable by going and using responsible down standard certified down for your products. Look to Blue Sign, get your textiles Blue Sign certified, and you will know that you don't have to worry about them. You know that they're that there's been due diligence on the supply chain. So right now we're introducing that, and particularly with a thought towards those less sophisticated brands, educating them and bringing them along. There are certainly some absolute requirements in terms of the way that labor is treated in the supply chain and other things, but we're bringing everyone along by educating them to start.
Other questions? During this class, Sue, could you talk a little bit about maybe what's behind that wall?
Oh yeah, so it was mentioned, but we, in addition to the garage sales in our online, we also here have what we call the Gear Loft, which is sort of like a garage sale all the time as well. And we have some renewal workshop product in there, and that is the company of former Patagonia people. Is someone here for renewal? Yeah, so you'll be talking about it?
Yes, sure.
Awesome. Has Nicole had her baby? Has she had her renewal workshop? Has she had her baby? I couldn't hear, but anyway, I'll ask you later. So renewal takes damaged product from returns for the most part, cleans them and refurbishes them, and then either markets them themselves or returns them to the brands to be sold. It's a really fantastic system, and we have some of their product in as well as some of our returns, and so we have the Gear Loft. I would not recommend all of us go at once. It's pretty small, but please go check that out when you get a chance.
During lunch, we have lots of time, so feel free after you eat here to kind of peruse up there and peruse the store. It'll be a great opportunity to go see that. Any other questions for Sue? All right, thank you, Sue.
Thanks.